If you've ever added budget to one of your Facebook campaigns and it completely ruined the entire campaign and your cost per lead skyrocketed, your cost per purchase skyrocketed, and your ROAS dropped, this video is for you. I'm gonna show you how to go from zero to over $10,000 a day in spend in less than 2 weeks. Now this works especially well if you have a webinar coming up, you have a finite amount of time, and you need to spend before that webinar to make sure you hit your projections. My name is Michael. We spend multiple millions of dollars a month on Facebook ads for coaches and consultants, mostly webinars, and in this channel, I'm gonna be showing you everything you need to know to drive more revenue with webinars, live events, and paid challenges. So one of the biggest challenges that most people come to me with is that they're stuck spending a limited amount of money, right? Most people are stuck around like $2,000 to $3,000 a day. And I actually just had a conversation with somebody who was like, we have no idea how to get past it because every single time that we try to increase the budget, Facebook basically just eats our budget and gives us the same result, but spending twice as much. And if you've experienced this where you increase your budget and you went from a $10 lead to a $20 lead, or you went from a $50 purchase to a $100 purchase, this video is gonna basically break down the structure that we use, that we've consistently seen work. Now, one of the problems that I've seen recently is that everybody's stuck on this whole new Andromeda thing, right? And so they have these crazy ideas of having to build new campaign structures. They have to keep it really, really simple. They have to throw 20 ads into one single ad set. And none of that stuff is, in my opinion, necessarily completely true, right? There is one fundamental fact about Facebook, and good ads scale. The best ads that you can put together will always work. Doesn't matter what your campaign structure is, doesn't matter how many ads are inside of that ad set, good ads work. And it doesn't matter what the algorithm does. This is something that is fundamental to Facebook. And the reason being is because Facebook gives a shit about the experience of the user on the platform. That's all they care about. And so if you can create a really good experience, whether it's an ad or not, they like your stuff. If people are clicking it, they're producing a result, they're buying from you, that tells Facebook that person had a good experience with your ad, with your business. And so fundamentally, make sure you're not getting stuck in this trap of these random 20 ads that have to be in a campaign, or only one campaign has to be running at a time. Like, don't get stuck in that stuff. Focus on making good ads. And I'm gonna show you how we structure it to hyper spend so that you're not blowing out your costs. So the campaign structure that we use, again, is a little bit unorthodox. Like if you're somebody that runs ads a lot and you're watching this, you're probably gonna be like, wait a second, I've heard that you're supposed to keep things simple now that Andromeda has happened. You're supposed to not have a bunch of different campaigns, right? And I'm gonna show you why it works and the methodology behind it. And this is actually something that has worked before Andromeda, during Andromeda, and it'll probably continue to work after, right? And so fundamentally, when you're scaling ads, there are only really two ways to scale an ad. And so either you go vertical, right? Or you go horizontal, right? And so vertical essentially is just adding more budget to your current campaigns. And so the conversation I had with somebody recently, they were stuck at about $3,000 a day in spend anytime they try to add more budget. And the reason is because they had two campaigns, right? This one right here was a winner campaign, right? This one right here was testing. And so what they were doing within this campaign was they had a bunch of different ad sets, and each of those ad sets had their ads, right? And because of this, they would throw all of their new creative into this testing budget. And what happens when you do that is that Facebook starts to like kind of disperse it a little bit. So let's just say, for example, you started out with 3 ad sets and three ads in each one of those. Facebook's gonna start to spread that budget pretty evenly and try to find out who the winner is, right? Once it finds a winner, all of that budget gets pushed into that ad, right? Now with this, what they're doing is they're just adding more ads when they create them into the same exact campaign. And yes, you keep the campaign, you keep all of the learning from it. But one of the problems with this is that you're starting to just disrupt the campaign a bit because now it has to spend some of that budget to some of the new creatives, right? And so it's forced to almost take a little bit of budget away from here or kind of just tweak the campaign out a little bit, right? And so what they were basically building was this testing campaign. They would always add new, right? So they just continuously added more and more and more. And this guy was shooting loads of content, right? He was shooting too much content for the amount of money that they were spending. They're only spending $3,000 a day. And this guy was literally shooting like batches of like 20 or 30 pieces of content every like 3 or 4 days, right? Way too much. It's almost content overload in this situation. But what they would do is when they would find a winner, they would move them into the winner campaign. And so the same thing with The winner campaign, as when I was talking about with this testing campaign, when you're throwing a new winner into an already existing ecosystem, it can disrupt the campaign. And then you get stuck where you can only vertically scale because you only have two different campaigns right here, right? And especially if you're at a CBO budget, you're basically, and CBO is campaign budget optimization, meaning that your budget is at the very top of your campaign. And you can't really do much. You have to just scale it up, scale it up. And so every time you do this, you have to just keep pushing budget in, pushing budget in. And there's a theory that you can basically only spend 10 to about 20% per day or do a 10, 20% bump per campaign, ad set, or whatever that is, wherever the budget is, right? And while that is true, that also limits you from actually scaling. And so with these, if you're gonna be able to do a 10 to 20% bump, you're very limited on the amount of spend that you can get off within a short period of time, right? So if you have a webinar that's coming up and you have two options right now, if you look at something like this, you have, hey, we need to spend, let's say you need to spend $100,000. We need to spend 100K in the next, for this one webinar. So you either have to start 4 weeks before, so extend your time horizon out, or you are gonna screw yourself if you advertise too short, having to spend too much money vertically because your campaigns are gonna go out of whack, right? And so the only option in this case is to hope for the best, right? Throw 20% in and cross your fingers that it doesn't tweak out the campaign and Facebook doesn't just literally eat your budget. Facebook is great at just eating your budget and giving you the same shitty results it was giving you before, but it costs twice as much. It's like the most frustrating thing in the world, right? And you know what I'm talking about if you've ran ads before. And so you can either do vertically scaling here, where you're basically just increasing budget 10 to 20%. Now, you can increase budget typically 10 to 20% like per like day-ish. Now, if you're running really good ads, like if you have a banger of an ad, you can do this multiple times a day, especially when you're doing like Black Friday sales or like Memorial Day sales or like kind of sales where like people are like in the buying mode. Like Black Friday, you can increase multiple times in a day and it may not tweak out your ads whatsoever, right? But when it's a normal occurrence and the demand isn't there like usual, you have to be very careful with how you do this. And a rule of thumb when you're increasing vertically, if you're at about, I'd say like 200 to 500 a day, like you can do like a 20% bump, right? And a 20% bump at this is really not a lot, right? It's what, like $80 to $100, right? It's like not an excessive amount of money to be increasing this. But as soon as you get to 1,000, you're looking at a $200 bump when you're doing, that's at 20%, right? And so when you get to about 1,000 a day or higher than that, we're typically playing around with a 10 to 15% just to keep things safe. Because a 200 bump is pretty aggressive sometimes and it can tweak out your campaigns. And so instead of only vertically scaling, we scale horizontal. If you're trying to do speed, you want to scale horizontal. Now, I also scale vertically. Like I'm not just sitting here with the same exact amount that I started with and not increasing campaigns, right? You obviously want to increase and spend more into campaigns that have all of the learning, they have the algorithm on their side, they're producing results. Like you don't want to not do that. But if you don't do it correctly, you will tweak a campaign out that is crushing it for you and you'll have to restart oftentimes, right? And so what is horizontal scaling? There are 6 different ways that we found you can horizontal scale. Now the first one is just straight up duping, right? You can literally take a campaign or an ad set, you can just click it and you can dupe it. Normally, what we do if we're duping and we're trying to scale is we will dupe it and then we will increase spend. So for example, if you have an ad set or a campaign that's at, let's say $100 a day, we would dupe it and instead of 100, we would turn it into like 200, right? Or 250. We basically like double or triple that spend. Now, again, same concept as the $1,000 right here. You're not always going to go from 1,000 to 2,000 if you're going to do a dupe, right? You're probably going to go from 1,000 to like 1,500, or you're not going to go up to 3,000. Like 2,000 is probably a little shaky. So when I run campaigns for like a webinar that's coming up or a challenge that's coming up, and I have to literally spend like 100K in less than, let's say 10 days, right? So oftentimes when we're running free webinars, you have to spend a lot of money in a very short period of time because it's a free webinar. You can't advertise too far out. You have to advertise, in my opinion, no longer than 10 days, right? And so we had to spend from $0 to $100,000 in 10 days without blowing out the lead costs. And so duping is one of those things that you can just do really, really, really quick. If you have a bunch of different ad sets, you have 5 ad sets, let's say, that are all spending $200 a day, you're like, I could literally double my spend by taking all of these ad sets and just duplicating them. People are gonna tell you that you're gonna compete with yourself, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about that kind of stuff. I care about results. I've seen results from this multiple times, and if you feel you are competing with yourself and your campaigns are just getting shitty results, then turn them off and check your frequency and stuff. But this dupe is one of the easiest and fastest ways just to literally double your spend with the campaigns that are already producing results. So the second thing is budget optimization, right? And so budget optimization, basically, there are 2 different types of budget optimization. You have campaign budget optimization, you have ad set budget optimization, right? So they call them CBO and ABO. All this really means is that there are different pieces to a campaign, right? You have your campaign level, then you have your ad set level, then you have your actual ad level, right? And so what this means is you're putting the budget here on the campaign level. So the budget disperses through every ad set, and then that disperses through every ad, right? And so it lets the budget literally disperse where it thinks it's going to produce the best result. Now, when you're doing an ABO campaign, instead of it being on C, it's here on ad set, right? So it's right there. And what this allows you to do is each ad set that you have, it will disperse whatever budget you give it to the ad. So if this one's at 100, this one's at 100, then it will only spend 100 on this single ad set. In this case, it will spend all of it across everything together, okay? And so this is a really good way to, if, let's say you're running, this is what I often do this a lot. I found that CBO has just outperformed recently over ABO. And so what I'll do is I'll launch a campaign CBO first. When I'm getting results from it, I will then convert this campaign into an ABO. And so let's say this right here is at $1,000 a day. I will then convert it into ABO, and I'll put each of these ad sets at 500 a day, right? Let's say I had 4 here. That would end up basically doubling my spend while keeping the same exact audiences with the same exact ads that I know are already performing. Just a different campaign structure, right? And so number 2 is budget optimization there, right? And changing your budget optimizations is a very simple way to scale as well, right? Now the third one is actually taking your winners, right? And so if you've been running a few different campaigns and you have like, let's say a batch of like 5 winners, I will pull the best winners out and I'll run them in a separate campaign by themselves, right? And so let's say you have like 1, 2, 3, 4 campaigns, and each one has, you know, like, let's just say 3 ads just to make this easy. This one has a winner, this one has a winner, this one has a winner, this one has a winner. I will take all those winners and I will create its own ad, right? Its own campaign. That way you can basically take all of the stuff you're doing winning and you can throw them into their own campaign with a new, let's say, $1,000 budget, right? This is a really good way of making sure that your campaign already has the best performers. Just like we were talking about earlier with the winning campaign, it's just a little bit different structure of taking those out by themselves and putting them here. And you can do this multiple times. If you have a batch of, let's say, 8 winners, you take those 8 winners and you put them into a campaign, and then 3 of them win, take the other 5, create another campaign, let those other 5 duke it out and see who wins out of that because they were winners in previous campaigns, right? So number 4, low spenders, right? And so what this means is you're going to take the ones that aren't really getting any spend, right? So as you know, when you're running Facebook ads, there's like 1 or 2 that typically get all of the spend because Facebook has deemed those as the winning campaigns that are going to produce the best result. And this one has a little nuance to it because I've noticed that oftentimes if you take the losers, technically like the ones that are low spenders, and you put them in their own campaign, it's kind of likely that like Facebook it knows that those aren't great and they're not going to perform as well. But I've also found winners out of the low spenders. And so just like you have a campaign here, and let's say this campaign is winning, these ones aren't getting any spend, I will take these out and put them into their own campaign, right? Now this allows you to keep, let's say, your $1,000 a day here, and then add a new $1,000 a day here, right? You've just doubled your spend without creating more content, with the ones that weren't getting spent anyway. Let's see if we can find a new winner, right? And number 5 is cyclic campaigns. Now, I didn't come up with this name. One of my mentors, I think he came up with the name. I'm not sure if it's an actual coined name, but cyclic campaign basically means that you're rotating through different objectives, right? And so most of the time with webinars, you're typically using like a lead objective, let's say, right? And so you're using lead for almost everything. And let's say you have a batch of winners. So you've got your winner here, winner campaign. You can take that same winner campaign, you can turn it into a schedule campaign, right? You can also take this winner, you can turn it into a complete registration campaign. You can also take this, you can turn it into purchase campaign, right? Now these 4 are the ones that I typically use the most: lead, schedule, complete registration, and purchase. Now the last one that we use here is you can also take it and you can do custom conversion. Now this is where pixel conditioning comes into play. We can dig more about that in a different video, but this is where a custom conversion comes into play. And so you can literally take the same exact winning ad and you can test different objectives, right? This is one that you're not going to want to just basically take one and do every single one of the objectives. You're going to want to find out which one of these objectives actually continues to perform on your account. Just to be clear, I have also seen accounts where purchase did really, really, really well. I've seen accounts where schedule worked better for the type of account, right? Even though we're all doing the same thing, we're sending them to a webinar, we want the lead to actually sign up and then show up, purchase got the results, or schedule got the results. So figure out which one is best for you. But this cyclic campaign style is really easy. Same thing, you just dupe it and change the objective, right? Like these are different ways that you can just hyper start spending. These are not very complicated either. Like these are just ways from, you know, years and years and years of advertising that we figured out how do we just spend more faster, because we have to, right? We have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in a very short period of time. Now, the very last one, which is the most common one, is just new creative, right? So new creative, right? Not very complicated. You should be creating new creative all the time. But when we looked at the initial structure that I was saying, I was talking to that guy about, is that his new creative structure was putting everything into the same campaigns. And so whenever you do that, you, in my opinion, waste a little bit of the creative that you created. Like if you have a campaign with 10 different ads already in it, and then you go throw another 5 ads in it, and the next week you throw another 5 ads in it, it's not going to disperse the spend evenly. You're not going to really tell if those ads were actually getting a good result, or they had a chance to get a result. And so what I personally like to do in all of our campaigns is I always just have one specific campaign for the new batch of ads, or a very clear type of ad, right? So if you're doing specific ads with one specific angle, I'll throw that angle in there as like 5 ads in one campaign. And so the way that we structure is like, we'll do a campaign. This one is like, let's say like last week, right? Last week's ads. So this one's last week's ads. And then instead of adding them to this one, I will create another campaign and I'll do this week's, right? And then I'll create another campaign and I'll do like a batch of like new reels or posts that have come out over the last week or so, right? And so like posts. And so instead of trying to hyper spend on one campaign and vertically spend and add more budget to it, I can just literally dupe. So I'm not really a fan of the whole 20 creatives, 25, 30 creatives in a single ad set. I've always seen that even after Andromeda, I used to do only like 3. Like I would put 3 and I would force those 3 to get a result. Now I typically do anywhere between like 4 to like 7. Like I think 5 in my opinion is like a really good sweet spot, and it gives you a good amount of creative that will last at least for a few months too. Like if it's a good batch of creative, you don't have to necessarily shut it off. Like it doesn't need to have 20 different pieces and go through all of these 20 different pieces, because unless you're spending excessive amounts of money on one ad set, you don't need that much creative. It's not even going to get any spend, right? And so for me, I'm real big on like 5 to 7 pieces of creative, and then you can put them in each of these, right? Each of them have different 5 to 7 pieces of creative. Same thing as you've seen before. All of these could have 1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here. Now you've just literally gone from a campaign structure that you're stuck at $3,000 a day. So this guy right here, let's say, back to what we had. He had his winners and he had his test. Each one of these, I think he was at probably like 2,000 a day and then like 1,000 a day. And he was stuck at like 3. if he just put his new batch, instead of putting it here, he put it in here, he just pops this bad boy out at 3,000, and guess what he just did? In total, he just increased by 30%. Now he's up to 4,000 a day. And he's got a fresh new batch of ads that are already starting to perform, that are going to find another winner. And you're going to obviously take all of your experience and all of your expertise from like the winning ads that you've had before and write those types of scripts, but you've just literally hyper spent 30% more without really risking anything, right? And then you could do it again, do another new batch, put $1,000 a day, and now look at, you're at 5,000. And it's simpler than people try to make it. Like, this is such a strong campaign structure for spending fast. And you know, some people are gonna say it's messy. Like, I'm gonna jump in right now and show you. People are gonna say it's messy, there's too much going on, but I'm a big believer. I don't turn off ads that work. I don't disrupt ads that work. If an ad is working, I'm gonna let that thing ride, dude. If like, it's about to be June. If I had a Black Friday ad still running right now, I'd run it. Obviously, I don't have any running, but I would run it. If it's winning, I let it run. I don't give a shit. If it's making me money, don't touch it. Let it ride. And so when you do this type of structure here, it allows you to let it ride, let the winners ride, and let them just keep on spending and spending, and you just keep stacking and stacking and stacking new creative without basically blowing out your cost, right? So now I'm just gonna quickly just jump into an actual ad account so you can see how it's structured. There's a lot of campaigns in there, just to be clear here, but you'll see how we actually set this up and how we set it up with the Cyclic campaigns, how we set it up with the new creatives, so you can start kind of doing the same thing for yourself. Test this out, right? You will be surprised that it's not as complicated. Stop listening to all these crazy little theories that people have. Just get scrappy, right? Get scrappy and advertise. And so here's a quick campaign structure that you can see. And most people would be like, dude, there are so many campaigns running in this. And the reason being is because this right here was like one of the first ones that we ran like 6 months ago. And if it's still performing, I'm gonna leave it on, right? I'm not gonna disrupt it. And all I'm gonna do is create another batch, and then create another batch, and then create another batch. And you can see these are all different creatives, right? These are all different new creatives or winning creatives that we've actually taken. If I expand this here, you can see what they're basically saying. You can see this one says Reels, this one says IG only, this one says SD ads, this one says QC V1 winners, carousels. This right here is a really good example of cyclic campaigns. We're doing a qualified lead. Now, qualified lead in our case is somebody who has filled out the form pre-webinar. I actually have a whole video of how you do that. Send that data back. It's called the DQ trap. Well, I'll plug it right here. You can go watch it. But essentially, we're sending only specific, what we call qualified leads back to the pixel. And so you can see this one's a qualified lead, and you can see this one is a website schedule. So this is that cyclic campaign where we took basically the carousels performing great. I think these were at like a 6 or a 7x ROAS, and we were like, all right, perfect. Let me dupe it and do it as a schedule, because schedule tends to perform better, right? And so this is a cyclic campaign example, and you've got your winner right here example, and same thing here. You've got winners with a qualified lead, you've got winners with website schedule, right? And so this one right here, winner scale, this is where we turn it into ad set, right? So these are really good examples of what I explained here actually in real life and what we're doing. And so we took the winners, we said, hey, they're working with qualified lead, custom conversion. They're working with the schedule objective. Now let's test them as an ABO, because in ABO, we have multiple ad sets that are different audiences that we can give budget only to those. And let's see if it performs again. And that gives us the opportunity to go from $500 a day to then $500 a day in each of the ad sets. There's 3 of them in there. So we go from $500 to $1,500 a day in those, right? And so you can hear at the very top here, we got the AI system, AI Reels V1. We actually just launched this one today. So this is a great example of exactly what I'm talking about, where you can literally go from $3,000 a day to like $10,000 a day in a matter of like a week, 2 weeks if you wanted to, if you were able to get the right content, the amount of content, and you build your system this way. Don't listen to all these crazy ass theories that people have, because you just got to get scrappy when you advertise. I didn't really learn all of this stuff by being stuck in a box and listening to one certain strategy. I went in and I just started running ads, right? And for me, I have the ability to look at different accounts and I see like what it looks like. And it's also in some way, you have an advantage if you're only running in one account, because you will understand your account. You will live, die, and breathe that account, right? And you will know every little nook and cranny of how the account performs, how much budget you can have, how much you can't, right? And so when you know that, you can get really scrappy with your advertising like this, and you can start hyper scaling, and you can start increasing your spend, increasing your revenue, and increasing your ROAS. So if you found this helpful, you're advertising right now and you want to spend more money and don't want to get stuck in the trap of getting shitty results just because you increased your budget, I would love to hear what you think. Comment below, and I'll see you in the next video.